In this video I'm going to show you how you can bring your Illustrator artwork, your paths, into Cinema as splines, which we can then use to create our carton model. And there's the cutter guide that's come from, and here's the splines in Cinema. Right, let's get going. When a cutter guide is supplied to you, it can often look something like this with trims. It might have other details on it, and it may look like it's fairly clean and usable, but you do need to check if you're going to take it into 3D. You'll need to make these all into single panels. Now at the moment, if we grab any of these elements, you'll see there's lines on top of each other. Most of them aren't joined. And where you've got curves, you will often find from CAD programs and such like that it's actually divided up into lots of tiny little pieces or long pieces, depending on how severe the curve is, which obviously makes it unusable in 3D. So what we need to do is to convert it. So the first thing we'll do, I'll make a copy of this layer so we can save that, just in case we need to go back. First thing to do, we'll get rid of the trim marks because we're not going to need those where we're going. Then highlight the whole of the panels on the cutter guide and go to, we want to change this into a live paint object. So we go down to live paint under object, make. There we go. Nothing much seems to have changed. But if we go to and there's a tool here you might have to dig around for, but it's the live paint bucket is what you want. So click on that. Actually, before we do, let's go back to the selection tool and we'll set up some colours first, because we're going to need to colour these panels to make this work. Now, because this is a document that's just been brought in, it actually doesn't have the default swatches on it, so we can add those. If we open the swatch library and we go to defaults, I'm going to choose basic RGB. It really doesn't matter what they are. This is just to separate out the panels, and I'm going to drag some colours. We only need a couple, so that will do, into our swatch library for the document. Now if we choose the live paint bucket, which is K, you'll see we get these little squares above the cursor, and if you use your arrow keys you can actually change between the different colours. So to begin with, I'm going to start with the yellow, and what we want to do, you can see that there's a red highlight around the areas that live paint is recognising as an enclosed space. So if we click on there, that will drop the yellow in it. Now what we want to do is to have a couple of colours, so it's almost like a checkerboard, so that no colours actually abut each other, otherwise they'll join up as a single panel. So we need to colour every other panel with one colour, and then we'll change the colour. We'll go for the red. Well, hang on, let's go for the green because we've got a red highlight. So we'll put green in there, all these every other panels. Okay, that's looking good. Now, if we go back and select the whole lot, make sure we haven't got any stroke on there. So all we've got now are coloured panels, which live paint has very kindly constructed for us as though these were single objects. So all we need to do, and I'll make a copy of this layer so we can go back to the live paint if we need to. Turn that off. So if we select the whole thing, and you'll see on here it'll say it's a live paint object. Then we can go up to Object Expand. It'll say what do you want to expand, but because we've only got fills on there, we can leave that as it is. We'll go OK. And now if we look back at our layers, we've got something we don't need there. I'll just get rid of that because it's not actually got any content to it anyway. And it's kept it all in a group. So if I go Command Shift G a couple of times to ungroup everything, you'll see what we now have are solid panels. We have no longer got these tiny little paths with strokes on. We've got single solid panels, which is what we're going to want to take into Cinema. Right, so what I'll do now is if we copy those, open a new document. Obviously you could use this one, just delete the other layers and away you go. But it might be a bit cleaner. We'll make a new document, create that, paste those in. And what I'll do now is to create a square to put it in so that we can check the size of it when we take it into Cinema. So all we need is a rectangle, any old size we can put in there. We want to make it a square. See, will it fit in? Let's make it 300 because I know this is about 200. So, and we'll position it centrally on the existing artboard. Get rid of the fill, we don't really want that on it. Command A, select everything, then go up to Object, Artboards, Fit to Selected, and that will give us an artboard now, which is 300 square. So we know that if we import this into Cinema, as long as we've got a 300 square set of splines, we're good to go. Right, now all we need to do is to save this into Illustrator 8 format. And the reason for that is that, let's just take that name on there, and I'm going to put at the end of that AI8 so that I know underscore splines, and hit save. And when the box comes up here, choose Illustrator 8 format because that will save it as an EPS rather than a PDF, so Cinema will understand it. Click OK, and that's done. Now go over to Cinema, new document. Don't even need to do new document actually, we just need to go open and find out where we put our file. There it is. So double click to open that, and we can just OK everything, bring that in, and there we have it. So you can zero out the coordinates so it's in the middle, which would be nice. Probably want to rotate it, I always do, so that it's on the y-axis like that. It's a bit easier to see what's going on. So we can check the size of this, and here we see we've got 850 by 850, which is not what we want. So if we change our, while that spline which goes around the outside of it, square spline, is the parent, so everything inside that is going to scale with it. So we can change this to our 300 by 300, and that's the whole thing scaled to real world size, if you like. So that's it. We've now got a set of splines in Cinema, ready to go on to the next stage and actually start creating the 3D carton artwork.